right. Let's talk about, though, surprise situations that you're not seeing coming. And here's one that I don't think has been talked about enough. I'm going to give Mike Florio a shout-out. Longtime CHGO Bears guest of that one time in Indianapolis. Mike Florio. Was a great guest. He's been all over the story with the Atlanta Falcons tampering with Kirk Cousins. There seems to be pretty damning evidence, too, that they did tamper.
Tamperers.
The most obvious being Kirk Cousins admitting it in his press conference that he talked to the trainer before he was supposed to. So I think there is going to be some type of punishment here.
You like that?
And yeah. And considering, like, was that the highest profile free agency domino, would you say?
Yeah. No.
I mean, the quarterback position, the money he got, the impact it had across the league. It's on the table that the punishment could be severe enough that it affects the Falcons' first-round pick. Now, Florio has thrown out a couple different scenarios, and I think we should talk about this because we're talking about surprise situations that can affect the Bears. And I think this goes all the way up to the Falcons potentially losing that draft pick. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Florio has mentioned maybe they move back to 32. Like maybe they get forced back to the last pick in the first round. He mentioned that maybe they have to swap with the Vikings because the Vikings were the team that lost Kirk Cousins. So maybe they move back to number 11. I think that would be the worst case scenario for the Bears. Yep. Well, it wouldn't be terrible because they would probably still be getting a quarterback, but it would take them out of being a team that you could potentially trade with or at least use for leverage with another team that might want to come up to number 9 because you don't ideally want to trade within your division. We're talking surprise situations, things that could be unforeseen. Now, I would think that they probably sort this out before draft night, although that'd be quite a bomb if they were like 30 minutes before the draft. Yeah, you don't have your first round pick.
Well, that would, yeah.
Take that. You like that?
Yeah. They'd have to do that fairly soon, you would think. But I like your bold thinking. I think it's also something that people have not been talking about a whole lot. But something's going to happen to the Falcons.
100%. I think there's going to be some type of punishment. We just don't know what it is.
And look, the Falcons they've been mocked a lot with getting whoever the best defensive player is on the board at 8. And if they were to lose that pick, and then that's just another defensive player that's available there if they don't have that 8th overall pick. And again, I think that just creates more options. Then what? The Bears are picking a pick, ahead if they don't trade back with if the Falcons and Vikings don't trade back, then the Bears are on the clock a pick sooner. So it would be a crazy situation. Is it out of the realm of possibility? I have no idea, but definitely something to monitor as we're getting now we're just a week away from the draft.
And by the way, before people completely dismiss the idea of them losing their first round pick, like the Dolphins lost their first round pick for tampering with Tom Brady. And like part of the reason why that was such a strong penalty was to set the precedent that like they're paying attention to stuff. Like we all know there's some level of tampering happening, but I think like when it comes to a high-profile quarterback, probably the biggest domino that had to fall in free agency, it's going to get more attention. It's probably going to get a more severe penalty. So I don't know enough about, like I don't have any inside information on this. I'm just going off of what others have reported and what Mike Florio, who's been kind of probably the lead reporter on top of this situation, have thrown out there. Just saying. Well, I mean, what if we find out the Bears actually have the number 8 pick and not the number 9 pick after all this?
Well, I think a lot of people look at it. Well, the Falcons are going to take Dallas Turner, who is not the Bears' number 1 target anyway. At least that's what people think. Maybe the Bears love Dallas Turner. We don't know. So if that's the case, it could have an enormous impact, and he could land in Chicago. I'm going to pivot to a different scenario.
Friends reference.
And coming off what Trevor was just saying, let's just do it like this. Rome Odunze is gone. Giants took him. Whoever took him. He's off the board. Neighbors is there. Buffalo needs a receiver. The Bears are worried about Neighbors' character issues. They want more picks. And Ryan Poles likes enough players that he believes are going to be there, and they make the aggressive trade that Braggs was talking about yesterday that he absolutely doesn't want. This would be the most aggressive move, but in trading with Buffalo, the Bears get a first-round draft pick next year. They get the Bills' second-round pick this year, which is number 60 overall, obviously late. And in addition, they also pick up their fourth-round pick this year. They've got 128 and 133. I really don't care who they get. Let's just call it 128 to get it done. So you get a first-rounder next year. You get the 28, you get the 60, and you get 128. So it's 4 for 1, and you're whoever Johnny Newton, A.D. Mitchell, whoever the Bears love late, and they add on, and then you add on a center at 60. I don't know. Something along those lines. These are wild scenarios. I'm not predicting this, but that's one that I do wonder how much the Bears are thinking about being super bold with a team like Buffalo, who might be super bold to go up.
Yeah, the second-round pick is really enticing in this draft because the Bears just obviously don't have that currently as it stands. And after the 9th pick, there's a little bit of the wait for the third-round pick. But, I think this draft shows that if you have picks in the first 2 rounds, that's where you're going to capitalize and find a lot of these impactful players. So if, Ryan Poles can still find value at 28, pick somebody at, with that 60th overall pick, and there's still positions of need that this roster still needs to be filled. So it is an enticing and interesting situation if Ryan Poles and the Bills were able to kind of come to that conclusion.
I just always think it's important to remember that second-round pick was already used on Montez Sweat. Granted, you paid him a lot of money too, but and if you can pick one up, that would be great. But I don't think there needs to be this desperation because you're also sacrificing the potential blue-chip player that you can get at number 9. And that needs to be factored into it that, let's say they stay at 9. Let's say they pick Rome Odunze, like Trevor just said in a mock draft scenario we just had with our emergency mock draft. The final haul on that is you end up with Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and Montez Sweat. Like, with those picks that you had. That's pretty damn good. So it's not like you gave that pick away for nothing.
It is impossible for the Bears to lose the trade at this point, no matter what they do. We could say that.
They've already won.
It's just, if I had to bet, I think the Bears. There's just been a lot of noise about going back a couple of picks. That's my bet at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's possible in that range where you have the Vikings, you have the Broncos, you have the Raiders sitting there, maybe even the Colts, like Trevor brought up. Now, Nick, your surprise scenario.
Yeah, so I think with, everyone's kind of mocking the Vikings to go up and get J.J. McCarthy, my draft scenario that, I have here is that a team not named the Vikings will take J.J. because – look, every time the draft comes up, we can never choreograph it. We don't know what's going to end up happening. There's always a surprise team. Trevor was talking about the Denver Broncos, Raiders. Like, what are they going to do? Maybe they might not have as much draft capital right now as the Minnesota Vikings with those 2 first-round draft picks. But you look at their quarterback situation. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, you think, Sean Payton's excited about Jarrett? Honestly excited about Jarrett Stidham? No. You had the Raiders with O'Connell and also Gardner Minshew, little mid-tier guys, and even like the Giants with Daniel Jones. Like, I'm not ruling that out as a possibility that they might want to go get a guy like J.J. McCarthy because Daniel Jones up to this point has not been the quarterback that they obviously envisioned. So I just think that we're looking – a lot of people are just pegging J.J. to go to the Vikings, but I'm not ruling out any of those 3 teams I just mentioned trying to get – a guy like J.J. McCarthy, who's obviously well-established at Michigan, and I think there's a lot more upside than what he even showed in his time there in Michigan.
So let's make the bet right now on the show. Do you think that the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks? You have to.
I don't. I'm on record as I think a guy always falls. I think a guy. I think we individually talk up. It's like one of these quarterbacks gets their own month, and then we get draft fatigue, and then someone's, and it's like it's just.
Nick,
I ran a mock draft scenario earlier where Jaden Daniels was still available there at number 9.
Yeah, I do not I'd be stunned. But
Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, so I guess the top 4 picks are not quarterbacks.
In your scenario.
Yeah, because Arizona would be.
Well, they could trade back with a team that comes up to get.
I just don't think the Cardinals would pass up on Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
If you look at their depth chart right now, I think their number 1 wide receiver is Michael Wilson.
My God.
Like, that's just not going to cut it. Yeah, but is he a number 1 wide receiver?
No.
Yeah,
Greg
but
Dortch,
they might
is he
have,
number 1?
I'm with you, but they might have Marvin, Rome, and Malik graded a lot closer than you might think, and maybe the Giants call and say, hey, we want to get up to 4 for a quarterback, and you're still guaranteed to get one of those wide receivers at 6.
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
It just depends on what the separation is.
Maybe Marvin's all the way up here, and then Rome and Neighbors are. Who knows how they have?
Well, then they probably just take them.
Yeah.
If you're Arizona going 4-6 with the Giants and getting extra picks, if you want Marvin, feels beyond risky because who the hell knows what the Chargers are going to do.
We all silly like the mayor.